Sometimes the biggest stories at the Super Bowl have nothing to do with the game itself. It's all about what happens at halftime. Today, we're going to break down how the choice of just one artist for that halftime show turned into a massive flashpoint in America's culture wars.
So, let's set the stage. The Super Bowl, right? It's not just a football game. It's pretty much the biggest television event in the US, period. And that halftime show? It's the most watched musical performance on the entire planet. The artist chosen for this gigantic stage was the global superstar, Bad Bunny.
And wow, was the reaction immediate and explosive. This wasn't just, some debate among music fans. The announcement instantly became the center of a much larger, much louder conversation about culture, language, and identity in America.
To really understand the firestorm, first, we've got to understand the artist. So who is Bad Bunny, and why in the world was he the NFL's pick for its biggest stage?
Just take a look at this. This chart gives you an idea of the sheer scale of his popularity. Bad Bunny wasn't just a star in the Latin music world, he was consistently one of the top 3 most streamed artists on the planet. Right up there with Taylor Swift and Drake. And if you're looking at it from a business perspective, the numbers, they just don't lie. He completely dominated global streaming for 3 straight years. His YouTube videos pull in a massive international audience, and his live shows are absolutely legendary. People have called him a supreme showman, which, let's be honest, makes him a pretty undeniable choice for a show like this.
But this was never just about the numbers. The announcement sparked this incredibly intense cultural debate online, and here's a taste of how it all unfolded.
A lot of people online saw it coming from a mile away. They remembered the backlash Kendrick Lamar got for his halftime show and were basically saying, "You think that was bad? Just wait." They were totally anticipating a wave of racist and xenophobic criticism. But his supporters, they pushed back hard. They argued that focusing on all that did a disservice to him as an artist. They made the case that, look, this has nothing to do with politics. It's about merit. He was chosen, they said, because he's a world-class performer at the very peak of his global fame. Simple as that. And then you get comments like this one, and you can just feel the sarcasm, right? It really highlights a core part of the whole conflict. For some, the simple act of him performing almost entirely in Spanish on America's biggest stage was going to be seen as a provocation. And, it also reveals a pretty big misunderstanding of his Puerto Rican heritage.
For a lot of people, this choice felt deeply inherently political. Bad Bunny has been a really outspoken critic of U.S. immigration policies and a big supporter of Puerto Rican independence. So to put him on this stage at this specific moment, many saw that as a very powerful statement.
And in the middle of all this heated debate, one crucial fact kept coming up. A lot of commenters felt they had to clarify that Bad Bunny, since he's from Puerto Rico, is an American citizen by birth. He's not an immigrant. It's a key distinction that seemed to get lost in a lot of the noise.
So ultimately, the whole thing kind of split into 2 camps. Was this a huge political statement, a so-called middle finger to MAGA? Or was it just a really smart business move to tap into a massive global market and guarantee insane ratings? The tension was just enormous.
Okay, so with all this political and cultural baggage piled on, the world tuned in, basically bracing for some kind of confrontation. But what they actually got on stage was a complete surprise to pretty much everyone. Instead of politics, Bad Bunny delivered a story. The whole 13-minute show was framed like a cinematic love story. It kicked off with his huge hit Titi Me Preguntó, and then it followed this couple getting engaged. It moved to a giant house party set on the field. They literally got married mid-show, and the whole thing ended in this massive, joyful wedding reception. And he wasn't alone up there. The stage was packed with this star-studded list of surprise guests. We're talking music legends like Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin, actors like Pedro Pascal. It wasn't a solo statement, it was a huge communal celebration. It really drove home that theme of a giant, inclusive party. That massive casita, or little house, at the center of the stage was a direct tribute to his home. It was inspired by the community and the culture of Puerto Rico. So he brought his heritage to the world not through conflict, but through this joyful invitation to a neighborhood block party. And then, just in case anyone missed the point, they made the message explicit. This phrase flashed across the stadium screens. There was no doubt what the central theme of the performance was.
He decided to counter all that anticipated hate, not with more anger, but with an overwhelming message of love.
And the performance ended with this incredibly powerful statement. He proudly held up the Puerto Rican flag, this really personal symbol for him, and then he brought out flags from all over the world, turning that moment of national pride into this grand gesture of global unity.
But here's the thing. Even as Bad Bunny was on the field preaching unity, that deep division that defined the whole lead-up to the show, it was playing out in real time. His performance wasn't the only one happening that night. At the exact same time, the conservative organization Turning Point USA was hosting its own All-American halftime show. It was live-streamed online, headlined by Kid Rock, and it was created to be a direct, MAGA-friendly alternative for anyone who objected to Bad Bunny being on the Super Bowl stage.
And that right there, that just perfectly captures the cultural moment, doesn't it? You had two halftime shows for two very different Americas. One was broadcasting a message of love and global unity, and the other was offering a counter-program with a completely different vision of the country. Which really leaves us with one final question to think about. In the end, what does the halftime show reflect more? The artist who's up on the stage or the audience that's watching? It kind of seems like America's biggest stage has become a giant mirror, and what we all see in it says just as much about us as it does about the performers. Thanks for watching.